5, 4, let's say 3. Is it 2? Is it 1? Why am I counting down? Because we're live. Hello and welcome, people of the world. Marketing is a foreign language. Episode 181. If you're not drinking tea, might I recommend that you do? It's the loose leaf stuff. That's what you really want. Did you know that there's a gentleman in my life now by the name, first name of Nicholas, who sent me a profile picture? And do you know what was on his shoulder? Yeah, it's a parrot. It is a red and blue, and I want to say green, and all different kind of colors parrot. And so, believe it or not, I have spoken about said Nicholas to a number of people based only on the fact that he sent me a profile picture with a parrot. Now, in his background, which you will see shortly, you will see a picture of Mary Magdalene. Now, Nicholas doesn't have any particular religious affiliation, but we were talking about how there aren't coincidences and how it is very interesting that that particular piece of art entered into his world. You see, there was an art auction, I want to say, in a college, and he ended up with that particular piece. It's very interesting how it unfolded. You walk in with the 50 or 60 bucks, and you walk out with a piece of art. There's about 100 people, about 100 pieces of art. And so you kind of let the universe decide. I've been very impressed thus far with my conversation with Nicholas, who we are now introducing to the show, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, Galen. Thank you for having me on the show. It's a pleasure to be here, man.
Dude, so already very excited for the show because I know it's going to be a good one. I guess my principal question for you to start is blockchain appears for many to be something that is going to take over the world. It's going to be this whole big thing. What for you drove you to want to experience blockchain? Like, why do you care?
Why do I care? It's a great question. I think blockchain is a really powerful tool in how we record and distribute information. It has the power to disrupt traditional power hierarchies in the worlds of finance. And I think that it is ultimately, when you're talking about blockchain through the vehicle of cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin or the digital gold and silver that we produce at LODE, it's about the socialization and democratization of your money. It's the separation of money from state. And I think that's a really important concept in the modern world, because presently all of our money and currency is backed by a nation's debt, and there's a very small body of people that control, that money, the distribution, the minting and printing of that money. And I think if you look throughout history, anytime power consolidates to just a few people, it ends up generally not working so well for the masses. And I think that people need access to better forms of money in our modern world. So there's a lot to unpack in there, but in a nutshell, that's why I care about blockchain.
Pronounce your last name.
A funny story about the last name. My last name is pronounced Prouten. It is technically French, but it is bastardized by the English. So if you're Parisian, you could probably get away with Prouten. But
we're gonna go with Prouten. We're gonna go with Prouten.
In Western
Canada, I love the sound of it. It's you know it gives you a je ne sais quoi. Okay, yeah. So Nicolas Prouten. So Mr. Prouten. Yes. If I had to guess, and tell me I'm wrong, you could maybe in your conscious life, but perhaps in your subconscious life, refer to yourself as a revolutionary.
I mean, it's a little dramatic, but perhaps it is. Perhaps the shoe fits, right? I am somebody who believes in creating change, big change in the world, and wanting to play a role in creating big change in the world. So if that makes me a revolutionary, then yes. Ultimately, my ambition is to play some role in creating better lives for people, lives where people are living with more value, right? So if that makes me a revolutionary, then yes.
Bingo, or as they would say on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Bing pot, bingo jackpot. So nine. So Mary Magdalene is somewhat of a controversial figure in Christianity. She was known to be Jesus's they were together? Do I know anything about? Do you know anything about the figure of Mary Magdalene? I only mention it because of the art and the background.
I mean, again, I'm not of a particular religious affiliation, so my knowledge is very surface level.
The
Um,
reason I mention it is because I'm seeing a thread, right? I'm seeing a thread between so the Jesus narrative is a very revolutionary sort of narrative. He just upended the whole system. That was his whole thing, right?
yep.
And at the core of what you're talking about, there's a thread of love, as far as I can tell, because you're talking about fighting against the oligarchy in regards to um, very few people having all the power, these governments being able to create unlimited debt, they make all the decisions. We want to decentralize that. You'd be hard pressed to say that a monarchy is better than a democracy. And this is the democratization of currency in our lifetime, right? Which,
Hmm.
and through the process of blockchain and us collectively getting smarter. And so I see a thread because Mary Magdalene, I think, is this sort of, it's not a thorn in the side, but it's this sort of kind of I don't know how to describe it. It's like it's so if you really focus in on her, it kind of upends a lot of people's thoughts about the dominant understanding of Christianity in many ways. If that makes any sense.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. I think, I mean, who she was in relation to Christ is a really interesting conversation in of itself. I often wonder if perhaps her character in the Bible, as we know it today, is perhaps even been altered because the manipulation of religious texts for the sake of control has been, and to push narratives is something that has long been practiced throughout many religions, not just Christianity. And I often wonder, was her significance diminished as part of the patriarchal push for power? I think that, when you look at it on a macro scale and or you even watch the Da Vinci Code, there is the implication that her role in the biblical story is actually pretty big, or could be potentially pretty big. So, there is a lot to unpack in that. And I do see the common thread that you're pulling on there. Perhaps that is my subconscious trying to manifesting itself in various ways, and perhaps that's why it called to me.
yeah, and this is what I love about the nuance of the physical objects around us and the story they tell us about how we perceive and think and all this sort of stuff. So
Mhm.
I obviously was drawn to it. It's the focal point of your background, basically. It's literally shining in the light.
It's true. I almost feel like a bug in a terrarium since COVID hit here. These four walls are, more home than they've ever been. I love this little space that I've carved out for myself, though, because cohabitating with another human being a lot more intensely than we have in the past, because we're all indoors a lot together. I've sort of carved out this nook as my little space. You can't see it, but I've got memorabilia, mementos, and various things that all have different uh, uh, personalities. To go back to the conversation we were having earlier, and you brought up a great point. Stepping back and being able to look at it, I can almost tell a story of who I am through these objects, and it was all in the subconscious. You know.
Yeah, no, it is fascinating. I mean, I would venture to even say that these objects in and of themselves are magical. I feel like I'm surrounded by magical objects. I feel like Link in The Legend of Zelda. Quick story, quick aside. I found, I'll make it super fast. I found my daughter's favorite toy. We lost him. His name's Apollo, little
Mhm.
plushy guy. He is the like plushy incarnation of a dog that passed, right? So he's what remains of the spirit of this dog that she loves so much.
Mhm.
And after a long quest, I finally got the dog back in my hand after he was lost. And I held him up literally like Link in The Legend of Zelda. And the that music of like da da da
Do
da
do
when you
do
hold,
do.
yes, thank you. Exactly. I had the physical experience of that, going on a quest and finding it. So okay, so we're gonna go back in time. You can start with your parents. You can start with your particular incarnation where you were born. That's fine. But we're gonna start getting your story. So where do you want to start?
Oh, I mean,
Oh, and there's no rush. Okay, so it's 10:39. We will stop the show at around 11ish, whatever. But this is the entire point of the show. Like I don't expect you to tell us everything in the next 21 minutes. That's not the point. We'll get as far as we get.
I mean, my whole joke was, if there was a title of my memoirs, it would probably be "It Seemed Like a Good Idea at the Time." Um, I think the path that I have taken throughout my life is perhaps a little bit of an unconventional one, but who knows? Maybe it's not so unconventional these days. It wasn't a linear, graduate university, graduate high school, go into university, graduate university, get a good job. And I think for many people that isn't the path anymore. I have lived my entire life with this sort of trial by fire experience, which often leads to learning the hard way. I'm very, very independent person. So graduating high school, I did, get accepted into Emily Carr, one of Canada's foremost art schools, but very rapidly, because I loved art. I was an artist to start out. I loved painting acrylics and portraitures, and I wanted to be a comic artist. And here I am now working in corporate finance and, trying to save the world through blockchain technology. Like how the hell did that happen? Right. And art is a fantastic vehicle for, I think, for developing critical thinking skills and questioning things and systems and challenging ideas through a visual medium, and in sometimes auditory mediums. And it became apparent to me that the high art world was utter garbage. And yeah, no,
would you venture to say that it was hot garbage?
hot garbage is an apt way of putting it. It is, for one of the biggest sources of money laundering in the world. Fun fact. For two, you have these, and I'm talking about high art here. And don't get me wrong, the Banksies of the world, they're creating fantastic, beautiful pieces. It's not to say that all high art is bad. But largely there is this macro trend of doing the absolute bare minimum, creating a superficial story around that product or around that piece of art, and then retailing it out for millions of dollars. Right? The banana tape to the wall is a recent example of that. And then they're like, oh, it's a statement. Oh, this sold for millions of dollars, and it's like, it's a banana tape to the wall, dude. Like it really, there really is no more significance to that. It's like, you could take an apple core, pull it out of the trash, and create a nonsense narrative about how this is representation of the flaws of capitalism. Right? Anybody can take a story, an inanimate object, and put a story around it. Doesn't really mean that you put any creative effort or that this is really true art. So that kind of approach to that, and then there's the whole personality cult of high art as well. This very aristocratic, you got to be inside the clique to succeed, sort of personality that circulates the high art world. And for me, that wasn't it. I wasn't about this. I was like, this is not my world. So, I did the app thing and I left instead of, trying to teach a fish to climb a tree. I was just like, this is not my pond. Let's go somewhere else. So I left. And
so this is, you're phenomenally intelligent. You're incredibly well spoken. Your vocabulary is amazing. I'm loving this. But I'm gonna hit the time. Bam. We're going back. We're going back in time. Okay. Where were you born?
I was born in Winnipeg.
In Winnipeg. Okay.
In Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada.
So balmy Manitoba, right? There you are. Parents at home? Both parents?
Yeah. Both my parents were very present in my life. Growing up, we actually moved around quite a bit. My father was finishing up his degree in the university in California. I think he had a scholarship for jazz music, of all things. He's got a master's in jazz music. So we actually lived on the border of Compton for the first few years of my life, which was pretty hilarious.
What?
Yeah. Straight out of Compton. It's always a little fun little tidbit there. And then
so you lived in California?
Yeah, for the first few years. Born in Winnipeg. Parents needed to finish up their degrees, so we went back south. Dad had a scholarship, so we finished up the degree, and then we started migrating west up the coast to British Columbia, and spent the majority of my life in British Columbia.
So Manitoba, what's the state in the United States that's to the south of Manitoba?
Oh my goodness, I couldn't tell you without giving you a quick Google.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah, I'll do that here. Let's see. Google Maps. Yeah, it looks like North Dakota.
That's where I'm from.
No way. Small
Yeah, dude.
world.
I thought Manitoba was straight north. Yeah. So yeah, that's cold. Manitoba's cold, bro. Like people
Yeah,
do not
the
understand. It's Siberia.
more or less. I mean, climate change notwithstanding, Winnipeg is definitely one of the coldest places, to be in Canada during the wintertime. The snowpack that comes down is just absolutely massive. It's
Forget
not as
it.
bad as actually being inside the Arctic Circle, but
Dude, I mean, I literally saw a map on, I want to say Reddit, where they colored in different parts of the United States and made them different countries. So Florida would be equivalent to some like Nigeria or whatever, some other nation,
yeah.
and North Dakota was Siberia. Like it literally was that stretch. Like there
That's
you are,
funny.
bro.
That
Yeah. So I
have you
relate
been
with
have you been
you.
to Siberia? Maybe that's a sign. Maybe you should visit.
Yeah, gotta get to Siberia, man. You know,
I don't
I
I, I don't know. I always find like something very interesting about the Arctic. I'd love to take a look up in that area one day,
do you
Just
do you ever get into Wim Hof? You know about this dude?
no,
So
no.
Wim Hof is the Iceman. He's done a couple of Vice documentaries that you can probably find online, and he's all about cold showers, ice baths. He hiked Mount Everest without a shirt and shorts.
There's
And
probably some like Shaolin Buddhist breathing techniques going on there.
Dude, you want to know what it is? It's
What?
hyperventilating. There's no other way of describing it. Just look up the Wim Hof breathing technique and just follow along, and you will. It blew my mind because in my dumb head, I was under the impression that a deep breath was this, like that's it. No, 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 no. It's 30 of those in quick succession that oxygenates your blood. And so what he basically teaches is you do that, and swimmers do this, like Olympic level swimmers, right? But for like a minute, and then you can hold your breath for like 4 minutes because the
Incredible.
oxygen is just flowing through your blood. It's not some Shaolin trick. It's just is what it is. It's just chemistry.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, I didn't mean to imply that the Shaolin was a trick either. There's a lot of
No, it's not.
fundamentals.
It's like funny master tricks, like I'm
Yeah,
a big
yeah, yeah,
martial.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
like but yeah, anyway, you may really dig Wim Hof. I'm telling you, that dude changed my life. He's changed a couple of things about how I behave. I climb mountains with my shirt off, like when there's snow, I just foop, and I just
Out you
cold
go.
tolerance, like let's go. So
That's cool stuff.
anyway, yeah. So Winnipeg, that's cool. And then up and down California. What instrument did your dad play?
It's more like what instruments doesn't he play, to be
Didn't he
honest.
play?
Didn't
Hmm.
he play? But he is tenor sax specifically is his meat and potatoes. Very, very accomplished, played with Michael Bublé, played with some big names, played on some shows. As far as the musician goes, he did a fairly good job. I got to tip my hat to my dad. Music is not an easy industry, especially if you're not willing to sell your soul to do, top 10 chart hits that play the same
Right.
four chords over and over, right? Jazz is a sophisticated form of music, comparable to classical, if not even more, because you have that element of what's the word I'm looking for? Spontaneity, right? And then jazz allows for the spontaneity, whereas classical is much more controlled, I would argue. And so I think as a musical career, he did quite well. And my mother, on the other side of that, she was, a powerhouse of business, on a lifetime entrepreneur. Started multiple companies. Really big supporter of women in tech, which, as you probably know, is an extremely male-dominated industry. So she, was really probably the root reason on a subconscious level that I'm involved in the tech industry today. And when I started making the shift from what I was doing at the time, post sort of the early college years, when I was working in entertainment, running events and after hours venues and societies in Vancouver. When I started migrating into the tech space, it was probably her influence that got me the inroads I needed to actually get somewhere, because you know, as you probably well know, you know, the reality of the world is that it's about who you know, right? We live in a world where there's so much competition to get a seat at the table, just to be heard, not even to be hired, right? Just to be heard. You know, we're using algorithms to track on whether or not somebody is a good candidate, when really, how are you supposed to know unless you actually talk to this person and you know, get to know them and understand their energies versus your energies, whether they're going to be a good fit for your company, right? There's so much more that
Mhm.
goes into it. So, you know, it was through her that I got my first beginnings in the tech space. And tech is so fascinating. And I'm kind of going on a bit of a tangent. So hopefully I'm in line with you, but tech is such a fascinating area. You know, the way that we can use technology to bring real value to people's lives is a really exciting premise, and innovation happens so fast in this arena that it's almost hard to keep up some days. So there's always more to learn, and I love that challenge. I love that that experience of being able to create value for people, and also to try to like keep in step with an industry that moves at a breakneck pace. If we're still doing the timeline thing, you know, post
Actually,
working.
let me stop you there.
Yeah.
So, so your dad basically, wow, this is obviously really boiling it down, and it's inaccurate in that, you know, it's trying to minimize it, but it seems to me that much of the money that your dad made was done through improvisation.
You could make that argument.
Okay. And looking at your background, the very little that I know, but listening to you now, it seems as though you're more of an improviser.
Um, it's an interesting way of putting it. You know, I think it's a balancing act. You know, I am not my father. I'm my own individual, and while he perhaps made his career off of improvisation to an extent, I do like to think of myself as more methodical. You know, just because I took a non-linear approach, or I'm willing to take risks, or you know, do something unconventional, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is spontaneous. Certainly, I've made spontaneous decisions in my life, you know, but there is consistency in the things that, you know, I am passionate about, right? You know, when I latch onto a goal or an objective, it's like horse blinders, right? I just go until I achieve the desired thing that I am looking to obtain, and in that sense, I begin with the end in mind, right? So there is space for spontaneity in that, but I wouldn't say overall that I am like necessarily the most spontaneous person. Um, mm, yeah.
So
Hopefully that makes sense.
yeah, no. So to me, I think if I'm about to play a trumpet solo, I have the end in mind. It's going to sound amazing, right? I'm gonna deliver people to this moment where they get outside of their heads, and I'm going to communicate something to them that is not the English language, but it's a join me in the dissonance.
Mm.
Join me in the, yeah, it's a little uncomfortable. We're both a little uncomfortable. But trust me that I will resolve this tension for you as long as you're willing to go on the journey with me. To me, that's what jazz is. Jazz is willing to be like, "Prum, prum, prum,
Yeah, yeah.
prum, prum,
I
da, 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 bum." Like, really wait for it, dude. Wait for it. You know, delayed gratification. And the same is true of Magnus Carlsen, world chess champion. That dude will compliment other chess players based on how well they, quote, hold the tension. We want to release the tension. You can take the pawn, right? Oh, the take the knight. You just take the knight. You can just trade. You can trade it off. You can simplify the position, and your head doesn't have to work as hard.
yeah.
Everyone wants that almost innately. And it's no surprise to me that delayed gratification results in these people being considered elite because they're able to be 10% more patient than everyone else.
Well, it's just, you know, different representations of the marshmallow test, really.
Yes, I was just thinking about the marshmallow test.
Yeah, and there is lots of correlation that goes on there between, you know, higher levels of thinking and the ability to deny instant gratification. So you're right on the mark with that kind of stuff. Um, you know, I don't think anybody's without flaw, and I don't think it's necessarily because you're willing to sit in tension means that taking the path of least resistance is inherently bad or makes you less intelligent. But I definitely, I would agree that you should exercise a certain level of discipline or have the ability to exercise that discipline. It's a skill. It's a tool in your arsenal that I think will uh, impact you in profound ways, whether that's, how you preserve your wealth and your money, or, self mastery, being able, conflict, pressure creates diamonds is the metaphor I'm going to use.
I always use that. I always say
Yeah.
that. It's just
Yeah.
coal, bro.
but yeah, being able to sit in that tension and being able to sit with the uncomfort you know and resolve it and find your way through it, is, I think, what breeds strong people. And I think we need, to an extent, need to do that more, on a macro societal level, but also on the individual level. We live in this world of instant gratification. Be more intuitive, Amazon Prime, same Prime now, give me Prime before. I don't know if you've seen that, Ronnie Cheng's,
A
give it to
comedian
me,
did something on
give
that.
me, give it
Yes.
to me now is his whole
Yes.
thing, right? Like, break into my house and gently place the Amazon package into my hand is the world that we live in. And so I think people have lost discipline, and to an extent, or for many people, perhaps they were never even taught. I don't think the school system, ironically, taught me a lot, much in the
Don't
way of discipline.
get me started. I taught for a few years. The show will never end. So yeah, super interesting conversation. I'm sure all of the folks listening are as excited as I am about your intellect. Yeah, you're a force. It's very interesting to hear you speak. It is 10:57, which is to say we are into shameless self-promotion mode. Obviously, we'd love to have you back on the show to dig back in. I'm not even sure where we left off in terms of you growing up, but we could start from the beginning. Lily writes, let me just quick throw their
Yeah, no,
chat.
I see that. No,
Yeah, I see
no,
that.
Ronnie, I'll shamelessly plug myself in a minute, but for anybody
Yeah.
listening who hasn't checked out Ronnie Chang Destroys America, on Netflix, I highly recommend taking a watch of that Netflix special, because I laughed my ass off. And it was some very insightful comedy.
Oh, that was on before.
Right? Same day delivery.
Like he's disgusted by it.
Right?
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, okay. So yes, good stuff. So why don't you get into the plug?
Yeah, for sure. So if you guys are interested in, diving into crypto and taking your first steps in tying the water with digital gold and silver, we check out lodepay.com. We have an entire mobile wallet solution where you can get access to digital gold, digital silver at a fraction of the retail rate. You can reach out to me at nickp@lode.one. You can find us on social media with LodePay Media. And you can also find me on Telegram. My handle is @thinkdank. Um, I'll let you guys fill in the blanks there. But yeah, we got a really friendly community. We're active in over 100 countries, and we're really enthusiastic about teaching people about wealth preservation and how to take advantage of these new tools that are coming to light in the economy. So I think blockchain ultimately is the biggest wealth generation event of our lifetimes. And if you don't have a digital strategy for yourself, you need to start looking at one. And hopefully, LODE can play a role in that for you guys. So come say hi. Very friendly as always. And yeah, I would love to come back to the show.
Yeah, we just scratched the surface. Yeah, I interview a lot of folks, and just very, very interesting conversation. Lots to unpack. I had a crypto company. We had like $50,000-$60,000 worth of machines in an old motorcycle repair shop in North Las Vegas. Me and some pretty intense friends, man. This group of folks, like one was a Wall Street millionaire, the other was a professor at UNLV, and we just formed this company. It was really interesting. I learned a lot. Learned a lot.
Right?
I swept a lot of dirty floors in the data mine.
Bro. I was gonna say, I'm sure there are some stones to unturn in that. Speaking of scratching the surface.
Oh, dude. Yeah, a lot to unpack. But no, good stuff. Do you host a podcast?
So we have our own YouTube channel, LODE Media, where I interview people. It is a little more formal. Generally, we
Yeah.
stick to the conversation of what's going on in the world of finance, gold and silver specifically, but also cryptocurrencies. So if that kind of stuff is your ball of wax, please do head over to LODE Media, watch our interviews, and you can watch my beard progressively grow and shrink as the year goes on. I always grow it seasonally out and then shave it once the new year begins. So, you can come on that journey with me into finance and beard growth. And, like I said, we're really friendly people and we'd love to have you join our community.
Yeah, hashtag beard growth. So obviously this is a live show. Thank you to everyone watching us after the fact. Thank you to everyone watching us on Twitter after the fact, LinkedIn, the Send It Rising Facebook page, Spotify, iTunes, and all the other podcast platforms that we are available at. Shout out, of course, to Esther and Lillian in chat. Thanks for swinging on by the show today. We love having you. You know that. And we will talk later. Mr. Prouten, or should I say Nicolas Prouten. We will.
Flattery will get you most places, Kellen.
That's right. That's right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much.